The plan to take your cash. This is significant. I've spoken about this before on the foundation, but I definitely want to touch on it again. I think I brought it up. One of the last current events that I did. So, this is something I wanted to touch on again. I wanted to, show the significance. So, I want to really, really, really illustrate the plan to take your cash, take our cash. Let's understand what's going on here. I do want to say I appreciate you checking out the foundation. Today is April 22nd, 2026. I am Sot L, Seeker of Truth L, Speaker of Truth L. And I would like to welcome you to the foundation where we understand incorrect information incorrectly applied can get you hurt. Correct information incorrectly applied can get you hurt. So we are always correctly applying correct information here at the foundation. As I said, appreciate you guys checking out the show. This is welcome to thefoundation.com. Make sure you check it out. Sign up for the email list at the very least. We're growing. We're doing great things. I'm very excited what we have to offer to all of our peeps. So, stay informed, stay up to date, sign up for our email list. I'm going to leave it there. Silver currently, boom, $77.51. Market is currently open. We've seen some retracement today. Not too much, though. It's been, wildly swinging back and forth. I want to show y'all the Shanghai spot price, 88.68 versus the Western or COMEX spot price, 77.53. You can imagine what's happening. You can just imagine what's happening. Look at this. So this is a white paper. The International Monetary Fund, they do working papers or white papers all the time. This is working paper 1771. 17, I believe, stands for 2017. This working paper is entitled The MacroEconomics of De-Cashing. So not the microeconomics from a community or individual standpoint, family standpoint, but the macroeconomics from, a government standpoint, from a country standpoint, from a GDP standpoint. So understand what this means. De-cashing. So I do want to say this was 2017. So we're a year away from the 10th anniversary of the creation of this paper. So read the abstract. I'm jumping straight in. This paper presents a simple framework for the analysis of the macroeconomic implications of de-cashing, defined as replacing paper currency with convertible deposits. De-cashing would affect all key macroeconomic sectors. The overall macroeconomic impact of de-cashing would depend on the balance of growth enhancing and growth constraining factors. Starting from a traditional saving investment balance, the paper develops a four-sector macroeconomic framework. It is purely illustrative and is designed to provide a roadmap for a systematic evaluation of de-cashing. The framework is disaggregated into the real fiscal, monetary, and external sectors, and potential implications of de-cashing are then identified in each sector. Finally, the paper draws a balance on possible positive and negative macroeconomic implications of de-cashing and proposes policies capable of augmenting its economic and social benefits while reducing potential costs. International Monetary Fund, so World Bank, IMF, we read the abstract. So it's really kind of point by point how this breaks down. It's defined that de-cashing is defined as the gradual phasing out of currency from circulation and its replacement with convertible deposits. This will be crypto. They look at crypto coins, stable coins, these things as deposits, not currency, deposits. The purpose of the paper is to suggest a simple framework for the analysis of the macroeconomic implications of de-cashing. not meant to take a view in favor or not. And it talks about the organization. I want to get down to where they talk about large denomination banknotes pose institutional risks. First, they are an important vehicle for money laundering. The larger value of the banknote makes it easier to transport larger amounts of money. As an example, US $1 million in currency is in $100 bills weighs 22 pounds, whereas $1 million in 500 euro notes would weigh less than 3 pounds. Second, large denomination banknotes are often forged. The U.S. Treasury considered reissuing a U.S. $500 banknote when the Euro $500 banknotes began circulating. However, after the recognition that such a banknote would fuel worldwide criminals, it was decided not to pursue this option. Third, high denomination banknotes are most likely used for overseas circulation with no supervision from the respective central bank. One estimate for the United States suggests that about 65%, or 580 billion, remember this is 2017, of all banknotes are in circulation outside of the U.S. There are a number of countries which are officially dollarized, which could in part explain this high percentage. Cashless transactions have gained importance in the world, of course. Debit cards, credit cards, tap to pay, things of that nature. The authorities of many countries have already taken the initial steps to limit cash. And it goes on to talk about India. I think India definitely was something they talked about. Sweden, Singapore, Canada's 1,000 note in 2000 was discontinued. Singapore's $10,000 note in 2014 was discontinued. In Sweden, all older banknotes and coins except the 10 krona coin were invalid by the end of 2017. Some banknotes and coins will not be replaced by new ones. Calls to scrap the $100 bill, the most widely used currency note in the world, have been heard in the United States. Second, the authorities in some countries have introduced restrictions on cash payments. So you see that. So this is how it works out. I would like you to take note that they no longer mint the penny. The penny is no longer minted. So as this is, I just want you to listen to this, pay attention. You can pull this up on your own. You can just do a search for it. It's available easy on the internet. And, just tell me how much of this stuff do you recognize today? Private sector also seems to prefer to do away with cash. I wouldn't say that. Merchants pay a lot of fees for using cards. And the only reason why merchants offer cards as a payment source or option is because consumers demand it. Okay, let's get into this. In monetary statistics, cash is synonymous with currency. Currency is part of money. Both currency and transferable deposits are part of broad money, and as any money has four basic functions. So they're drawing relations and things that fall into comparison with actual currency and, money deposits, transferable deposits. Please understand they're talking about crypto. The amount of currency placed into circulation relative to deposits is determined by demand for currency. I want to get to some. This one I want to get to. Special case transfer deposits. Where is it? So we're still getting into this. In any economy, there's a supply of resources and demand for resources and their use, right? And then they break down the fundamentals. I think they, even put an equation with regards to that. I mean, let me get into this because there's a part that I want to get to, right? I think it's down here. De-Cashing, central bank independence. The only useful function of currency which can be lost with de-cashing is that demand for currency may help predict financial crises. So they're going to lose, the potentiality is to lose the ability for governments to predict financial crises because they can't easily determine the demand for currency if they de-cash. I like that. And it could have implications for central bank independence, mainly in emerging economies So, you get them properly yoked. De-cashing would have an impact on growth, which may be both positive and negative. Reducing transaction costs, it would reduce the underground and gray economy and therefore increase the GDP captured by officials' statistics beyond the usual estimates of the underground economy already included in GDP calculations, thus making them explicitly contribute to GDP. On the other hand, de-cashing may have negative repercussions for private sector growth as a substantial part of private investment, house construction, remodeling, and extensions, especially those financed by remittances, is settled in cash. De-cashing may introduce disruptions in this well-established process. Also, with the elimination of high-denomination banknotes, consumers will have to use an increasing number of lower-denomination banknotes to settle the same transaction, which will increase cost. Finally, should governments impose de-cashing without the general approval of the population, de-cashing may lead to social tensions, mistrust, walkouts, demonstrations, and as a result, GDP losses. Yeah, okay, so you see. On the demand side, de-cashing would affect both private consumption and private investment. De-cashing will have an impact on the fiscal balance of de-cashing country. Yep, it will. In principle, de-cashing should improve tax collection by reducing tax evasion. This is huge. Pay attention, please, y'all. In Sweden, for example, with de-cashing, the government has benefited from more efficient tax collection because electronic transactions leave a trail. To the contrary, in countries like Greece and Italy, where cash is still heavily used, tax evasion remains a big problem. The visibility of tax payments by transfers through banks can serve as a deterrent to tax underreporting and other evasion strategies. Most developed countries and many developing countries have already implemented policies on electronic tax payments and use them as a tax control instrument. However, as these policies require taxpayers to acquire and install electronic payment systems, compliance costs are unavoidable. Recent studies showed that while electronic payments did not appear to influence VAT collection, VAT overseas is value added tax. Like you buy something, you pay tax, and depending on what it is, they charge a value added tax. It's crazy. The negative effects of cash collection on VAT performance is unambiguous, at least in the countries where electronic cash payments are well established. Finally, electronic payments may also lead to new forms of tax evasion and could incentivize barter facilitated by improved technology, which will hamper tax collection. And then I want to get down to seem ambiguous, blah, blah, blah. I want to get down to where they were talking about, they're talking about it would reduce the very profitable impact on the balance of payments of certain countries from the international circulation of their national currency. And that would impact the United States, definitely. It would also impact Great Britain, and it would also impact the euro for sure, and the yen. But if all the countries did it at the same time or within the same time period, it would have a less of an effect. But who am I? I'm just some crazy dude on the internet. What do I know? De-cashing should help reduce illegal migration. What? Imagine that. And if you de-cash your society, they'll release all of the EP files, and people will go to jail. So social implications of de-cashing can be substantial. Carrying cash is a human right and is written into constitutions. Listen. Carrying cash is a human right and is written into constitutions, which therefore have to be changed. Listen. I just want to highlight. Yep, that's good. You highlight that. Absolutely. Social conventions may also be disrupted as de-cashing may be viewed as a violation of fundamental rights, including freedom of control, contract, and freedom of ownership. While convertible deposits cannot be stolen, in a conventional robbery, they can be hacked. There are obviously concerns as the cases of electronic fraud have more than doubled in the past decade. And, you got AI agents and stuff. Mythos, did y'all hear about it? I'll talk about it on current events tomorrow, but Mythos leaked. De-cashing would remove a tacit means of social support. De-cashing by a shift towards transferable deposits reflect a natural drive towards economic flexibility and growth. The private sector led de-cashing seemed preferable to the public sector de-cashing. So they're saying have the merchants and the banks push the de-cashing of the country and don't mandate it by the government. The former seems almost entirely benign. More use of mobile phones to pay for coffee, but still needs policy adaptation. The latter seems more questionable, and people may have valid objections to it. The latter being public sector-led de-cashing by decree. De-cashing of either kind leaves both individuals and states more vulnerable to disruptions, ranging from power outages to hacks to cyber warfare. In any case, the tempting attempts to impose de-cashing by a decree should be avoided. Listen, this is what the IMF is telling governments. This is what I want you to pay attention to. This is what I would like you to consider as you walk about in your daily lives. How much of this paper has come true already in the past 9 years? Next year it'll be 10 years. Given the popular personal attachment to cash, a targeted outreach program is needed to alleviate suspicions related to de-cashing. In particular, that by de-cashing, the authorities are trying to control all aspects of people's lives, including their use of money, or push personal savings into banks. The de-cashing process would acquire more traction if it were based on individual consumer choice and cost benefits considerations. They're going to push it and they're going to say, hey, $100 in the crypto or the stable coins is worth it's actually worth $150 compared to cash. So if I got $100 in the stable coin, I actually got $150 value. You follow what I'm saying? Yep. This is the most significant paragraph that I would say exists in this entire paper. There are also other ones with regards to taxation, implementation of monetary policy. Let me see if I can find that real quick. But I mean, this is something that I think it went over a lot of people's heads. A lot of people didn't, catch on to this. A lot of people missed this. I don't think people are paying attention. I invite you. You know what? I'm going to put a link in the description of this episode. So this episode of The Foundation, you can look in the description. I'm going to have a link for this paper. You can read it yourself. It's only 26 pages. It's not that crazy. It really isn't. But this, and I think I talked about this maybe in 2018, maybe 2019. I don't think it was 2017. I don't think I was that on it yet, right? But I spoke about this a while ago, and now looking at this again, I can see how much progress has been made. In principle, the transmission of monetary impulses from the policy rate, I found it, to inflation may become easier as all rates, monetary market, interbank, bank deposit, and lending may react faster to the changes in policy rate as economic agents would have fewer non-interest-bearing assets in the form of saved currency. In particular, the negative interest rate policy becomes a feasible option for monetary policy if savings in physical currency are discouraged and substantially reduced. Negative interest, basically you deposit $100. If you don't spend it within a certain amount of times, it becomes 90. And then more time, it's 80. More time, it's 70. That's negative interest. You cannot leave, and this is better for currency circulation. It's better for, but it's not good if you can't save. It's not good if you can't save. Becomes feasible option for monetary policy if savings in physical currency are discouraged and substantially reduced. With de-cashing, most money would be stored in the banking system and therefore would be easily affected by negative rates, which could encourage consumer spending. Yeah, if the money or the fiat currency in my account is losing value over time, yeah, I'm gonna get it up out of there. But I can't convert it to cash, so I have to buy something. I have to make a transaction. And yeah, that's great for the economy. It's great for the economy. Moreover, currency has not been an efficient instrument of monetary policy, as in most countries, currency is neither the largest part of money supply, nor an efficient mechanism for providing liquidity. The amount of currency in circulation has no impact on inflation, and there are no, I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that at all. And there are no quantitative limits on banknote issuance in central banks. I believe that. That's true. Which also suggests that currency has largely lost its role in monetary policy, in particular in developed countries. The opposite scenario is also possible. In particular, in developing countries with a large share of currency in money, where currency may have an impact on inflation, even a small negative interest rate would likely result in a sudden jump in demand for cash, both during and after the period of negative interest rates. The supply of cash would increase to meet this demand. In this scenario, negative interest rate policies might be feasible only if cash and prepaid debit cards are eliminated. They got to get rid of your cash, and they got to get rid of the debit cards and the prepaid debit cards, because if they impose negative interest rates and you have an option to put your currency or your fiat currency into something else, you're going to do that. So they have to be eliminated. But even then, they would be highly controversial. Also, with negative interest rates, agents could move into other assets for storing value if domestic interest rates are largely negative. Think of using other currencies, paper currencies, virtual currencies, gold, real estate, etc. And that's what the smart people are going to do. And that's another reason why Congress was toying with the idea of unrealized capital gains, taxing unrealized capital gains. So if you bought a house for 50 grand and you've lived in the house for 20 years and now the house is worth 150 grand, you have to pay taxes on the 150 grand. So you got to sell your house to pay the taxes. This is ridiculous. This is coming. This is here, I would say. This is here, but it hasn't been fully implemented here. You know, I think a lot of European countries are doing a lot of the legwork first, but you know, the USDT, United States coin is tied to Tether, right? The government is not going to implement it. There's going to be too much pushback. So you're going to see a slow and steady nudge towards no cash. And I'd be willing to bet you don't have any cash on you right now. You see what I'm saying? When was the last time you had cash? When was the last time you made a transaction in cash? Read this white paper. You'll see. You will definitely see. And it's a good read. I would say it's a good read. It's definitely a good read. It's eye-opening. And, you know, this is just one of many working papers or white papers that the International Monetary Fund puts out. I hope you learned something. And, you know, I trust that, you know, this puts you in a better position with regards to knowledge. And with that being said, y'all enjoy yourself. Take care of yourself. Make sure you say 10 things that you're thankful for before you go to sleep tonight and every night. It's very important. And I'll catch y'all tomorrow on Current Events. Peace, y'all.